Okay, here we go. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is February 4th. Wowee. Already 4 days into February, and that puts us 1 month. That puts us 1 month away from the end of trimester 2. Now, I'm sure some of you are looking at that and you're like, wow, that seems like a long time. Well, we've got 2 more days of distance learning. We've got 2 days next week. Then we're back into the building. And then at that point, we basically have 2.5 weeks until the end of the tri. So you're going to want to make sure that you're taking a look at not just my class, but your other classes and getting your stuff all figured out and turned in. Get your late work in, get your stuff in that you might have been putting off, because this is going to come up pretty quick. Going to come up pretty quick. And it's not like when we're back in hybrid. Remember, you're not going to be in the building, that many days a week. So you're going to want to take advantage of the time that you have. But here is our agenda for today, folks. We're going to take a look at take a look at some new terms, okay? Because we've got a quiz coming up next week. You will see that on the Schoology calendar here in just a sec. We've got some World War II resources I want to throw your way in case you are just completely out to lunch about I don't know what I'm going to do my Flipgrid on. I don't know what I want to read about. Well, I've got a number of resources on under the World War II folder that should be able to help you out, okay? Then we'll finish up the hour kind of introducing the Cold War with a little Bert the Turtle video, which I'm sure some of you have already seen Bert the Turtle before, but that's okay. And then you've got your best years video, which is going to be due tomorrow, okay? So I'm not going to take a whole lot of your time today, but you are going to want to get that best years video in, because that is going into the grade book this week. So let's take a look at this first, though, actually, okay? Now, we are transitioning from World War II into the Cold War. Now, understand this, that the fascists, for the most part, at the end of World War II, aren't, they're not dominating politics anymore. The Nazis are gone, so to speak. And you basically have the communists over here, okay, and the capitalists or democracies left in the world. So now, since the fascists are gone, it basically has boiled down to the last 2 predominant types of economies or governments left in the world. Because at the end of World War II, a good chunk of the world is in shambles, both literally and figuratively here, folks. And what you need to understand is a lot of these countries had to grasp onto one of these 2 government structures. If they were close in proximity to the Soviet Union, they were going to be latching onto the Soviet Union for help. If they were close to the United States, they were going to be latching onto the United States for help. And that's basically how we go from World War II in working with the Soviet Union to the Cold War so quickly. Okay, we moved to the Cold War pretty quickly, and you're going to learn about that today as we study that, or as you watch that best years video. But without me talking too much, some of you probably say too late, we're going to get right into Quizlet Live. So go to Quizlet.live right now. Quizlet.live. Chapter 19 terms, my dudes. Let's see. How many stinkers do we have in here today? 24. All right. All right, I'll give you about 30 seconds to jump in here, and then we're going to play this thing. 3 rounds. All right, here we go, folks. Round one. We lost Wayne. Oh, he's back. And they're racing. I know that these have pictures on them, folks. I will take the pictures off when we play next week, just so you get to know the words as opposed to the photos a little bit better. But that's okay. Visual literacy is important too. All right, round one. We're off to round two, and they're racing. This is it, folks. This one's for all the Tostitos. We lost Chloe. And they're racing. This is it, folks. Wow. Nice job. All right. So, next on our little agenda here, folks, I want to do this. All right. So here we are in Schoology. If you want to open up Schoology right now and just get so you can see what different stuff I'm talking about here, that might be a good idea. So due date coming up this week. You are going to get best years today. You should have ample time to get done with best years today, because that is going to be going to the grade book at the end of tomorrow. You've got your little Flipgrid learning check, which is going to be due next week. And then you've got your Cold War term quiz that is coming up Wednesday and Thursday of next week. Okay. So when we go under, let's take a look at the World War II folder first, because I did open up some resources in there that is pretty interesting. Okay. We are going to be spending a little bit of time talking about bombing, kind of in the, you know, and how do I want to put this? like, was it necessary in World War II, and the way in which they did it, was it morally, ethically, was it correct, that type of stuff. So you've got this firebombing link here, which I'll get to in just a second, but then you've also got this National World War II Museum YouTube link here. These are a bunch of videos that the National World War II Museum that's in New Orleans puts out. Fascinating stuff, okay? And you could probably search just on that channel for stuff that you might be interested in. And then the National World War II Museum also has a bunch of cool stuff. This is an awesome site. Okay, so when you if you were to just peruse this site for something that you might be interested in, like for this, you might maybe you already know about the Nuremberg trials, but the Nuremberg trials are fascinating because this is where they basically prosecuted the people responsible for the Holocaust. And it's a fascinating story if you are into, well, this is kind of a social science thing, but it's like, who was responsible for the Holocaust? Can we point it all back to one person? Because if we're going to blame it just back to one person, the Fuhrer killed himself in a bunker and that person's dead. So who's left to blame? Because in this chain of command, everybody just kind of pointed the finger like, I did what I was told to do. I did what I was told to do. Okay. So fascinating story there. There's a bunch of other exhibits within this talking about, like, this is breaking it down between European and the Pacific theaters. All kinds of fascinating stories here. Like if you want to learn about the Tuskegee Airmen, if you want to learn about the Double V campaign, all of that stuff is going to be located under this website, which is an awesome resource for you guys, okay? So check that out if you're completely lost and you don't know what to do for your Flipgrid stuff. And a number of you have already emailed me asking questions about, your question about if you need help, putting that question in an open-ended fashion or just kind of advice as to which direction to go with it. I'm here to help you with that, okay? This firebombing link is an awesome article in that, when you guys take a college level course, I guarantee at some point the ethics of whether or not the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was what Truman should have done, okay? I guarantee you're gonna have that conversation in a class. And I'm not here to make you believe one way or another, but I think what's important to understand is that, did Truman understand the effects of that bomb years and years later? Doesn't seem like it. It doesn't seem like, from what we've read, that Truman understood the long-term effects of what those bombs would do to those people for years and years and years to come. The fallout of those atomic weapons. Okay, but I would also argue that there was no need to use those weapons because Japan was already destroyed. Okay, the firebombing that we did in World War II was pretty significant. Okay, these were all wooden cities. And what happens when you bomb a wooden city with incendiary bombs? Now, this wasn't a type of bomb that you would drop and it would go boom. It would start a chemical fire. And some of these fire bombs in some of these cities got so big. These are all wooden cities, by the way. They got so big that it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for people to be walking by one of these buildings and get sucked in because it was sucking so much oxygen into these buildings, okay? Well, this kind of shows you the amount of devastation in Japan from these fire bombings. So it kind of shows you the equivalent. So like, let's say, prior to Hiroshima getting, what would be a good example? So like this one right here, okay? 35% of Osaka, Japan was destroyed. So imagine 35% of Chicago being destroyed. Imagine Kobe, which is the equivalent of Baltimore, 56% of that being destroyed. And it just kind of shows you the scope of the amount of devastation that was just wreaked havoc on a lot of these, okay? Imagine 40% of New York City, which was Tokyo, okay, burned. And a lot of these people, that's how they died. It's not a very nice when we look back on the firebombing of Japan in World War II, the guy responsible for a lot of those orders, the guy that was responsible for a lot of this, even admitted that had the United States lost the war, we probably would have been brought up on war crimes for that. That was General LeMay. But anyway, moving on, let's move on to the Cold War, okay? Now, under this tab, you've got your vocab link. you've got your activities, okay? So this is where you're gonna find your best years link, and this is where you are going to find that YouTube link has been working, and there's your best years video worksheet, okay? And there's the Dropbox for it. Now, just a couple things left in class here, folks. We've got 2 things left, and then I'll be cutting you loose so you can get going on that video. But before we even get going, I got a little piece of trivia for you, okay? And if you know the answer, I don't want you to give away to everybody, okay? But how many nuclear weapons have been detonated, do you think, over time? How many nuclear weapons have been detonated? Meaning, how many of them have exploded? Anybody got a guess?
I'm saying 3.
It's a logical guess because you've got Hiroshima, you got Nagasaki, and we know that they tested it, right? Okay. Any other guesses? Raise your hand if you think you know it for sure, like you know for sure the answer because you maybe talked about this in class. No? Nobody? All right. Well, I'm going to mute myself, and I want you guys to check out this video. Now, pay attention here, okay? It's gonna speed up and show you every single detonation that has happened over time. It's a lot more than what you'd think. Okay, it's going to show you by country how many detonations have gone off. And a lot of you are probably going to gather this, that you're going to go, oh, they're testing these, but you won't believe at how many there actually are. So watch this, okay? In the thousands, right? And the United States has got over 1,000 just itself. Hopefully you're able to recognize the Soviet Union, China, Pakistan, India, the different countries that have access to those. But this is the time period in which we're going to start talking about, where people were deathly afraid, and by all means, it was realistic for them to die in a nuclear explosion because of how quick at that time period in the Cold War, people were willing to go to that level of nuclear warfare. And if you've studied the Cuban Missile Crisis, you'll come to understand of how the orders were given to go to war several times by both sides. And it's mere through luck that we made it out of that without going into a push-button war with the Soviet Union. Now, back it up just a little bit. You know, I'm kind of throwing a lot at you here, and we really haven't even talked about the Cold War yet. Well, what the rip is the Cold War? Why do we call it the Cold War? Well, the Cold War is an ideological struggle between these capitalist democracies versus the Soviet Union. So it's basically boils down to the United States versus the Soviet Union. And since the Soviet Union and the United States never went mano a mano in a clash and never went into a full-on shooting war against each other, okay, they call it, it's kind of a Cold War. Well, baloney. Were there proxy wars in which the communists were fighting against democracies and capitalists? Okay, absolutely. Vietnam, Korea. Okay, but just as it wasn't the Soviet Union versus the United States, we call it the Cold War. Okay, but those proxy wars were absolutely falling under that umbrella of what was the Cold War. Okay, so yeah. Last thing I'm going to kind of mention to you here, folks. That's going to play into the next thing that we do is this, okay? Think of how scary a year 1945 must have been for people, okay? Number one, they saw Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and all of a sudden in their minds, they went, oh my gosh, people can destroy cities in a matter of seconds now. And how scary that was. And then all of a sudden, as you get into the later 40s, now other countries are getting access to these nuclear weapons, and how scary that must have been. Then you compound that with the fact that when you get into 1944 and into 1945, okay, as the Allies are stumbling across these concentration camps in Europe, they're going, look at the way human beings are treating each other and how scary that must have been for everybody, okay? And the lack of control in the ability to make it through, through this Cold War was kind of a scary thing, okay? So, last thing I'm going to show you here is something called the infamous Bert the Turtle video. This was a video in which they showed two kids in the early 50s basically saying that, look, if the atomic bomb comes, here's how we're going to be able to protect ourselves. Now, even in this time period, they weren't idiots. They knew that an atomic blast goes off, okay, anywhere near somebody, you don't have time to react. This will destroy you. But in order to comfort people and to give them some type of an element of control in their lives, they made public announcements like this. And we're going to watch the first part together, and then I'll cut you loose. And if you want to stick around and watch the rest, that's cool too. But I'll shut up and we'll watch this, okay?
Dee-dum-dum, dee-dum-dum. There was a turtle by the name of Bert, and Bert the turtle was very alert. When danger threatened him, he never got hurt. He knew just what to do. He ducked and covered, ducked and covered. He did what we all must learn to do. You and you and you and you. Duck and cover.
Be sure and remember what Bert the Turtle just did, friends, because every one of us must remember to do the same thing. That's what this film is all about. Duck and cover.
This is an official civil defense film produced in cooperation with the Federal Civil Defense Administration and in consultation with the Safety Commission of the National Education Association.
Produced by Archer Productions, Incorporated. Hey, Bert, come on out and meet all these nice people, please. Oh, all right. We really can't blame you. You see, Bert is a very, very careful fellow. When there's danger, this is the way he keeps from being hurt. Sometimes it even saves his life. That's why these children are practicing to duck and cover just as you do in your school. We all know the atomic bomb is very dangerous. Since it may be used against us, we must get ready for it, just as we are ready for many other dangers that are around us all the time. Fire is a danger. It can burn whole buildings if someone is careless. But we are ready for fires. We have a fine fire department to put out the fire, and you have fire drills in your school so you know what to do. Automobiles can be dangerous, too. They sometimes cause bad accidents, but we are ready. We have safety rules that car drivers and people who are walking must obey. Now, we must be ready for a new danger. the atomic bomb. First, you have to know what happens when an atomic bomb explodes. You will know when it comes. We hope it never comes, but we must get ready. It looks something like this. There is a bright flash, brighter than the sun, brighter than anything you've ever seen. If you were not ready and did not know what to do, it could hurt you in different ways. It could knock you down hard or throw you against a tree or a wall. It is such a big explosion, it can smash in buildings and knock signboards over and break windows all over town. But if you duck and cover like Bert, you will be much safer. You know how bad sunburn can feel. The atomic bomb flash could burn you worse than a terrible sunburn, especially where you're not covered. Now, you and I don't have shells to crawl into like Bert the Turtle, so we have to cover up in our own way. First, you duck, and then you cover. And very tightly, you cover the back of your neck and your face. Duck and cover underneath a table or desk or anything else close by.
I think it's important for you all to understand that the atomic bomb can burn you worse than a sunburn. And I don't show you this to make fun of these people. I want to show how much of a lack of control they felt like they had, and they had to offer some type of comfort to people, like they could control that in some capacity. Okay, so anyway, I think that's a decent enough introduction. I want everybody to get into the best years video. Okay, make sure that that works, and that's about all that I have for you today.